So I closed my eyes and picked a video to watch today, and we're going to be looking at it. Now, let's go. Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Ivy, and I discovered my teacher doing something sinister. So sinister that I got him fired, and now the whole school hates me. It all started when Mr. Cliff became an English teacher at my high school. Now Mr. Cliff was gorgeous. He was probably about 25 years old, and every single girl was madly in love with him. He was funny, charismatic, and super kind. It seemed like he actually really cared about our emotions, which was more than I can say about a lot of teachers at that school. There was a rumor going around that Mr. Cliff would change into a different shirt in his room during lunch.
What?
Once it had gotten warmer in the school, my best friend Macy and I sat around with all the girls, giggling about what he looked like without a shirt on. I thought he was handsome, but I was a little creeped out that everyone was talking about it. He was a teacher after all. The next day during lunch, Macy ran over to me crying. She was panicking and could barely breathe. She told me she had been dared to go in and take a photo of Mr. Cliff while he was shirtless on her way out. She had dropped her phone and it had slid under her desk. She couldn't find it. Even worse, she had set the photo of him to her background. If he found it, she would be in huge trouble. I knew I had to go and get her phone for her after school. I snuck into his room. I dove under the desk to find it. As soon as I grabbed it, I heard footsteps coming towards the door. I started to panic. Without thinking, I dove into the closet and closed the door behind me. What happened next changed my life forever. I watched through the slit in the closet as Mr. Cliff came inside, and my classmate Tia walked in behind him. Mr. Cliff started running his hands through Tia's hair. He told her she was so mature for her age, and she was so different from anyone else. Then he kissed her. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was an adult, and Tia was only 17. I felt like I was about to throw up. How could he do something so terrible? I stood in the closet and shocked. His Tia, Mr. Cliff, left to go to his house when he shut the door behind me. I realized I was locked in. I called Macy. She had temporarily borrowed her cousin's phone. So luckily, I was able to ask her for help. She managed to go get the janitor to open the door. I came out of the room looking like I had seen a ghost. On the way home, I told Macy everything. I knew the next morning I would have to go to the principal's office and report what had happened. But Macy told me I couldn't. She said Mr. Cliff was the nicest teacher at our school. If I got him fired, everyone would hate me. And besides, she said she is lucky he hit on her. I felt so sick hearing those words come out of Macy's mouth. I knew Tia was way too young, and Mr. Cliff was her superior. So everything about this was wrong. But honestly, I was afraid to speak up. What if no one believed me? All night, all I could think about was him kissing Tia and telling her she was special. Maybe the whole school would hate me, but I couldn't sit back and let this happen. A few days later, after school, I hid in the closet again. If I could get evidence, then I would be more confident going to the principal. I braced myself. As I heard Mr. Cliff's footsteps coming down the hall, when he walked into the room, my jaw dropped to the floor. It wasn't Tia behind him. It was Macy. You're so mature for your age. You're so special, Mr. Cliff said. I wanted to jump out of the closet and sink my claws into him. My best friend was standing there in front of my own two eyes, being lied to by someone who was supposed to be keeping her safe and educate her. I couldn't bring myself to record. Instead, I sat at the bottom of the closet and waited for them to leave. Once I heard the door close behind them, I stepped out of the closet, only the room wasn't empty. Mr. Cliff stood in the corner, his eyes as big as saucers. I didn't know what to do, so I just froze. He told me I didn't see what I thought I saw. For a second, I considered just agreeing and walking off, but I knew I had to do what was right. I told him he was manipulating girls at our school, and that what he was doing was illegal. He said nothing, but he walked over and locked his door. I started making my way towards the window, my heart pounding. Was he going to hurt me? He told me that he cared for Macy. If I told anyone what had happened, she would be in huge trouble. Her parents would be mad at her, and they might even make her transfer schools. As he was saying all this, my mind was racing. I didn't want to get Macy in trouble. She probably won't want to be friends with you anymore, Mr. Cliff said, and I won't want to be your teacher anymore. You'll have that mean old Mr. Baber. When those words came out of his mouth, I realized the truth. It wasn't about Macy getting in trouble. It was about him getting in trouble. He didn't care about my friendship or Macy's well-being. He only cared about being exposed and losing his job.
Yeah, he is.
I can't let you hurt my friends. I'm not going to let you manipulate me like you manipulated her, I yelled. Mr. Cliff started walking towards me, anger in his eyes. I threw open the window and dove out. Just as he was about to reach me, I ran home through the woods as fast as I could,
Woods.
tears in my eyes.
There's a school
When I
in the
got
woods?
home, I collapsed at the kitchen
In the
table.
woods.
I wanted to tell my parents, but I was terrified to. I was afraid they wouldn't believe me. I was afraid that he was right and Macy would hate me. But I knew I had to do what was right. I started to cry at the kitchen table, and that's when my parents came in, asking me what was wrong. After a few minutes of fighting with myself, I broke down and told them everything. The police came moments later, and I made them promise that Macy wouldn't be in trouble.
Okay.
They promised that she would be just fine at school. The next morning, police officers led Mr. Cliff away in handcuffs. I found Macy and confessed to her with tears in my eyes that I had told the police. I told her it was because I cared about her, but she was furious and stormed off. Within hours, the whole school knew I was behind this, and they hated me for it. I kept telling myself I had done the right thing, even though it didn't feel that way. As days passed, the truth started to come out. Mr. Cliff had been with a different girl almost every single day. He had told them all the same thing. He offered them kindness. He told them they were special, and then he took advantage of them. There were 50 girls who had been involved with him. Even crazier, Mr. Cliff wasn't his real name. His real name was Mr. Brown, and he was wanted in another state for doing the exact same thing. He had forged his papers.
So my mom used to work at a school, and someone there was named Mr. Brown. But it didn't look nothing like this guy. They look ugly. No offense taken, right?
And had been on the run for years. The crisis counselors made all the girls meet. They told us that a person in a position of power like a teacher, boss, or politician can't be in a relationship with someone they're in charge of. Mr. Cliff had lied to make all of us feel important. There is never a reason for a teacher to have a crush on a student. It's illegal and wrong. After a few meetings, Macy came to me with tears in her eyes. She thought she had meant something to Mr. Cliff. Teary-eyed, I told her she meant the world to me, and that making sure she was safe was my top priority. We're fine now, and I'm so grateful to have my best friend back.
No.
Did you like this story? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
I don't like it. Oh, damn it. I accidentally.
Hi.
Okay, so what do you think of that story, everyone? Did it teach you a lesson never to think your teacher thinks you special or anything? Bye.